Welcome to Bipolar She. I'm your host, Janine Noel. Before we get started, we are working on a new season and we could really use your support. I've just joined the Buy Me a Coffee fundraising platform where listeners can make a micro donation to the show. So please check out Bipolar She's link to Buy Me a Coffee in the show notes, or you can just Google Bipolar She and Buy Me a Coffee. These small donations are keeping me and my editor afloat. Today we're talking about books, yes, actual physical books that are sitting here in my lap right now. Suicide is a topic for some of these books, but we don't get into those details today. But if you find yourself ever in need of immediate support, please dial 988, a suicide and crisis lifeline. I don't talk about this often, but this podcast came out of stories I gathered about my own mental health crises. I got an MFA in creative writing in 2015, and I'd submit my stories and essays to be read by fellow students and professors. I just put all my mental health dramas out there for critique. And it was really interesting because my audience was not judgmental. And it taught me that it's okay to write about the dark stuff. And the more I looked into it, people have been talking about very hard things for years and years and years. So you are not alone. If you just want to get everything out in a journal, that's one way to go. Or maybe you want to publish an article, or maybe you want to be a guest on a podcast and tell your story, or perhaps start your own podcast. With any of these efforts, it all starts with story. And I am going to start a class at the tail end of summer and early fall about writing these hard stories. So if you have a story and you want to learn more, please go to the bipolarshe.com website, and there's just a quick sign up there, and I will send an email out to all of you when the class is open for enrollment. All right. So today we are looking at mental illness through storytelling. If you want to write your story, you really have to start reading. And this is fun. So what I'm doing is I'm going from the psychological light to the psychological dark. So I'm looking at books on mental health, and I'm going to start with one that is a little bit quirky and fun. So this first one is Maria Bamford's Sure, I'll Join Your Cult, a memoir of mental illness and the quest to belong anywhere. So Maria Bamford is a well-known comedian and actress, and she has bipolar 2 disorder. So that means she doesn't spike high into mania or psychosis. But she's so interesting and so accomplished. And at the same time, she's had to go home to her family's house in Duluth, Minnesota, and recover, and then go back to LA as an actor. So her mental illness and her life has been very public. So anyways, this book is interesting because she gets into difficult topics. It's pretty funny because she uses the word cult broadly. You know, she refers to her family as her first cult. She talks about the way learning Suzuki violin training as a child was somehow a cult. And then she seems to join a lot of adult support groups like Debtors Anonymous, Overeating Anonymous, to Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. And she really doesn't hold back. These are really nicely crafted short chapters also to keep your attention. She uses everything from graphics and photos. She keeps it really alive. So it's kind of an easy read. But she's really sharing a shadow side of her life that's somewhat hidden by her fame. So I really love this. But on top of this memoir, if you want to get to know Maria Bamford a little bit better, she actually has a Netflix special. It's stand-up. It's called Old Baby. And she has this ability to take a joke to the next level and then spin it around to the next level and totally turn it into the absurd. I don't know what that is called in comedy, but her ability to do that is exceptional. Maria has a TV show. This came out in like 2017. It's called Lady Dynamite. And it really does get into her life as a middle-aged, somewhat emotionally unstable woman trying to make it in Hollywood. She's one of my favorite famous people with bipolar disorder. Okay, so Maria was keeping it kind of light in her book, and now we're going into books that are about medium in tone of darkness and light. And the next book I have here is Burn Rate, Launching a Startup and Losing My Mind by Andy Dunn. I just read this most recently, and his name actually may sound familiar because one of his businesses is a men's clothing shop, Bonobos, and he's a big-time entrepreneur, but his story is actually not uncommon because so many entrepreneurs have bipolar disorder. They've done some sort of studies, or perhaps it's just anecdotal, but many, many do. And most of them have bipolar 2 disorder. But for Andy Dunn, he does have bipolar 1. So that means he shoots up into mania and into psychosis. And Dunn, throughout his life, was taking all of these entrepreneurial leaps of faith to create new items. And his hypomania turned into mania, and then it broke out into a devastating psychotic event that put his career, family, and his fiancée at risk. This narrative, it's clean and it's direct and it's moving through time. And then we learn this beautiful part of his relationship with his fiancée, who has to kind of suddenly try to understand Dunn's actions based in psychosis that were never meant to harm anyone, but they did. There is also a moment in this book where he depicts his behavior in a psychiatric facility, and it is unlike any book I have ever read. He divulges so much. It's overwhelming, and I admire him greatly for doing so. It's also really just an amazing story about his fiancée and him moving forward in their relationship after this kind of major catastrophe. So, Burn Rate, another great book. It's about medium in terms of psychological darkness. Okay, this book, My Lovely Wife in the Psych Ward by Mark Lukach, this blew me away. I read it in 2 days. What is it like when your partner is struck with mental illness? Mark Lukach was 27 and had no experience with severe mental illness. And all of a sudden, his 27-year-old wife comes down with bipolar. He's forced to navigate a new dynamic in this marriage. And as a reader, we feel so close to him, to his thoughts, his confusion, the sudden overwhelm. We also get his wife's voice. Like she's always present. It's never just about him, which is really beautiful. And, his efforts really to get her well. It's kind of amazing. Both his parents and her parents are supportive and really step up and help in this book. And at the same time, he lends a critical eye towards the reality of psych ward operations, like the often ridiculous red tape you must go through. Ultimately, through it all, their marriage continues. And, Julia gets the care that she needs during this crisis. It's fascinating. So this is for someone that maybe knows someone in their life that has maybe bipolar illness or any type of mental illness. Or if it's you, it helps you maybe understand those around you and how they had to come to terms really quickly with your new mental health status. It's also, I just think, a really powerful reminder of family during a mental health crisis. It's so interesting, too. If you look at all these books, it's the same people giving each other blurbs on these mental health books. So we need some new stories out there. All right, now we're getting into the psychologically dark territory. You probably heard about this book if you're a reader, but it's called I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. So, Jennette McCurdy was a famous child actress. She was starring in the Nickelodeon TV show iCarly. I think this is such a great book to read if you're looking to write your mental health story, because maybe it's her background in film and TV, but this book is episodic. So, it chronicles these scenes in her life from very young age and forward. And it's such a nice way to write because all you're doing is getting down the dialogue in the scene, the action, and the behavior. You don't have to write how anybody feels. You just get down what happened, who was there, who was listening, who was not. So this is such a good book if you're just starting out. She never has to tell the reader how to feel. That rawness in the scenes just shine through. And then it's kind of like this pileup of abuse by we get to the end, but somehow we've stuck with it because it's been in smaller doses, chapter by chapter. Her eating disorder is just one of the painful byproducts of her difficult life. Of course, yes, we know from the title, this mother-daughter relationship is far from a loving one, but there are some, unfortunately, brutal chapters to read. But if you're going to get started writing, I actually really suggest starting with this book. Now, get reading. Okay, so those are 4 to get you going. And I'm going to come back with some other recommendations, not just books, but also TV shows and podcasts that I think would be great if you are making your mental health story debut. All right. Again, thank you for being here as always. And check out buymeacoffee.com in the show notes. And check out bipolarshe.com and sign up to be notified of my class. Thank you so much.